In the mid-18th century, the Indian subcontinent was a map of competing European interests. The Portuguese held long-standing outposts in Daman, Diu, and Goa. The French operated through trading centers in Chandanagar, Mahe, and Pondicherry. The Dutch were withdrawing, but the landscape remained crowded. Within this environment, the British East India Company operated as one commercial entity among many, focused on securing trade routes and shipping goods back to London. That focus shifted when the company began constructing a military fort around their Calcutta trade hub. They cited security as their justification, but they did so without the required permission from the regional government. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dawla, saw the fortification as a direct challenge to his authority. He moved his forces into Calcutta and destroyed the unauthorized British structure. When the news reached Madras, the company dispatched Robert Clive and a small contingent of troops to Bengal to reclaim their position. Clive arrived to find the Nawab's army far outnumbered his own. Facing a military force he could not defeat in a straight fight, the company began to move beyond simple trade, initiating a series of maneuvers that would eventually bring the entire subcontinent under their control. Upon reaching Bengal, Clive recognized that a conventional war against the Nawab was a losing proposition. The company's resources were disciplined, but they lacked the sheer numbers required for a frontal assault. Instead of a direct attack, Clive looked for fractures within the Nawab's inner circle. He opened secret negotiations with the Nawab's own military commander, Mir Jafar, and a wealthy financier named Seth Ami Chand, promising them influence in exchange for a betrayal. To draw the Nawab into the open, Clive claimed the public was being mistreated and marched his troops to a village called Plassey, located just 38 kilometers from the capital. On June 23, 1757, the two sides met at Plassey. As the engagement began, Mir Jafar held his divisions back, leaving Siraj-ud-Dawla's flank entirely unprotected. This betrayal allowed Clive to break the Nawab's army. By noon, the resistance collapsed. The company immediately installed Mir Jafar as a puppet ruler and took possession of the 24 Parganas estate. By the end of 1757, the company had transitioned from a group of merchants into the de facto governing power of Bengal. Control over the Nawab allowed the company to extract massive amounts of wealth through tribute and fees. When Mir Jafar could no longer satisfy their demands, they replaced him with Mir Qasim, hoping he would be more efficient at generating revenue. However, Mir Qasim sought to assert his own independence. He began modernizing his military and challenging the company's trade monopolies, leading the British to remove him and reinstate the elderly Mir Jafar. Mir Qasim fled to Awadh, where he organized a coalition with the Nawab of Awadh and the Mughal emperor, Shah Alam. Together, they gathered a unified force to challenge British expansion. On October 22, 1764, the company met this three-way alliance at Buxar. In a direct military confrontation, the company's disciplined infantry overwhelmed the coalition forces, marking a decisive victory over the remaining major powers in the north. This map shows the territories of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Following the victory at Buxar, the company secured the Diwani rights, the legal authority to collect all land revenue from these three wealthy provinces. The acquisition of these rights meant the company no longer relied on trade profits alone. They were now the official tax collectors for tens of millions of people, effectively becoming the state administrators of eastern India. Managing the revenue and administration of these vast territories proved difficult for a private firm. The scale of the company's new responsibilities prompted the British government in London to assert more control over their operations. In 1773, Parliament passed the Regulating Act. This law reorganized the company's leadership, placing its commercial and political activities under a more centralized government structure. Under the Act, Warren Hastings became the first Governor-General, bringing Bombay and Madras under his Bengal command. This centralized power was immediately tested as the company expanded south, fighting simultaneous wars against the Maratha Empire and Mysore's Hyder Ali. The conflict in the south intensified under the next Governor-General, Cornwallis, who faced Tipu Sultan, known as the Tiger of Mysore. Recognizing that Tipu Sultan was too strong to defeat in isolation, The company negotiated alliances with former rivals, the Marathas and the Nizam. This joint front eventually forced Tipu Sultan to accept a peace treaty that stripped him of half his territory. The British presence in India grew from the debris of a single destroyed fort in Calcutta. By exploiting internal betrayals, seizing regional tax systems, and maneuvering through shifting alliances, a private trading firm systematically dismantled the existing power structure to become the dominant absolute authority on the subcontinent.